HauntsRUs, the podcast that's haunted on Maine. I'm your host, Cheeb, and today I'm joined by a special guest. You just heard his music. His name is Cross. Cross, tell the audience about yourself.
Hello, I'm Cross. That's what everyone calls me. I'm a musician and I like to play heavy metal. Mostly guitar. What other instruments I can play?
Yeah. So you actually created the theme for HauntsRUs, and I know that you had some really nice things to say about the original artist, Donk Monk. Yeah, that's this name he goes by is Donk Monk on YouTube. Check out. He's been publishing a little bit more music here and there.
It was pretty cool. What do you call it? I like spooky kind of music. For me, I think of like Luigi's Mansion, or I was just listening to the soundtrack to one of my favorite video games called Grabbed by the Ghoulies, and that kind of like spooky haunted music, I love it. And so when I heard your theme song, I'm like, yeah, this is great, but let me rip a guitar over this, you know.
Make it heavy. Make it metal.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is Cross. What's the name of your band?
Placate.
Cross from Placate. I know that you have a couple of stuff on Spotify if you want to plug that.
Just launched, we just put out a single. It's called This Is Possession. This is Possession by Placate, or Placate, depending how you want to pronounce
Placate.
Placate. And so, we just put out our first single, and we have more singles along the way. So I hope you enjoy, hope you like.
Yeah, and we will be playing, what is it? Is it your song called Possession?
This is Possession.
This is Possession. And we will be playing This is Possession at the end of the podcast, so if you'd like to listen to that, that's one way to do it. Or you could listen to it on Spotify. Hey, fucker, you're already on the app.
Put it on Q. Just swipe to the right, and it'll put it on Q. Right after this episode, it'll play.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can listen to it right and turn this fucking shit off.
Put it on your other device because you have multiple devices right now.
Like, I know, I look at the analytics.
And you're probably on your phone.
I don't care if you're fucking driving right now.
Pull over and put my song on right now.
We have technology. We have...
Just skip the green light. Just stay parked.
Yeah, just say, okay, Google... Play, This is Possession.
My phone picked up your voice. It never recognizes... No, it's playing! Oh my god!
Yeah.
My phone does not react to anyone else's voice. But you and me have the same voice. So.
We're literally the same fucking guy.
We're twins. So.
Yeah, I fucking love this guy. Everyone.
We're former co-workers. We were twin terrors. Everyone knew our names.
Yeah, we also had like the same hair for a while, which was kind of crazy.
Same person.
We're literally
twins separated from birth.
Exactly, dude. We like met each other and we just caused
separated
chaos.
From conception.
Yeah, dude. Fucking love this guy. But like I was saying, you go, okay, Google, play This Is Possession by Placate.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, speaking of This Is Possession, can you guess what today's episode is?
Possessing things. Repossession.
Repossession. Yeah, that's right, folks.
Repo cars.
That's haunted repo. No, it's not. It's not about haunted repo cars. I'm so sorry. Bro, but fucking imagine, dude. Haunted cars do exist. There are stories.
That's a topic for another day.
That's a topic for another day. We'll get on it because I know literally all of you are listening to this on your way home in your car. That might be
haunted.
Yeah, don't look at the driver's side window, dude. He's right there. The ghost. Don't look. Don't look.
I was gonna say don't look through your rearview mirror, but I'm guessing most of you don't.
The way y'all be driving.
The way y'all drive. He's hiding in your turn signal. Oh, you'll never notice.
He's in your blind spot. Fucking love this guy, everyone. Cross from Placate. Make sure you check out his band, Placate, which I just said. Cross from Placate. From Cross.
Can't get enough publicity here. I get 5 cents every time she says my band's name. Yeah, right now, I'm getting a large fry.
Yeah, man. He's literally just received a single penny. The music industry is great.
Yeah, thanks, Spotify.
But since I got my big rock and roll friend over here, I decided that we wanted to talk about the Satanic Panic and metal music. Because there's a lot to talk about there. Today's episode is about Satanism, and I want to set the scene first. So, when we talk about the Satanic Panic took place around the 80s, but the 70s helped a lot. Because if we think about the 70s, we have the rise of like these isolated cults that did ritual killings. Jonestown happened.
That was 70s?
I think that was the 70s.
Yeah,
Should I look it up?
I want to know what year Jonestown was.
So what year did Jonestown happen? Why do they need to know my location in order for me to like look something up? It's like, hey, this is pretty sus.
Yeah.
We need to know your location. It's like how to kill a man. It's like, hey, can you give us permission to look at your location?
This episode is brought to you by NordVPN.
Bro, if we keep making jokes, they'll eventually find us, dude.
I'll hear your voice carrying from a window eventually. So we're trying to look at like the year Jonestown.
1978.
78 is Jonestown.
So we have things like Jonestown that happened in the 70s. We have the rise of cults. And then we also have a couple of famous serial killers. And I want to remind everyone that this is not a true crime podcast. But this era was marked by a lot of like terrible and egregious murders. So we will talk about them, but we will not talk about them at length. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but like I personally don't like murder podcasts because I think they can sometimes be like a little bit disrespectful. Especially like since this is the 80s, a lot of those folks are still alive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because one of the big serial killers of like the 70s was Dahmer, and like the people the people he killed are dead, obviously. Anyways, this is such a dumb thing to say. This is why we don't do this shit live.
Alrighty.
This is why I don't talk about murder.
I think this whole beginning section is just gonna get cut.
Yeah.
I think, like the whole thing. We should just start over. Today, this episode is gonna be about the Satanic Panic.
No.
Prominent in the 80s.
Prominent? No? What is this? People don't fucking listen to this podcast to retrieve information. They listen to it so that way they don't fall asleep behind the wheel, bro.
Well, alright. So, it's prominent in the 80s. And obviously had some upbringing in the 70s, but the 80s, as far as I did my quick research, that's when it was more media. It was more in the media, and it caused kind of like a witch hunt kind of situation.
It caused like a crazy
80s.
hysteria. I also like to say like I have like a fucking spiritual connection to the 70s, bro. Like I feel
like you're from the 70s.
Yeah, like bro, people will talk about past lives and then they're just like, oh, I was in ancient Egypt or I was a Native American, and I'm just like, I was from the fucking 70s, dude.
I feel like I was like maybe like late 70s. That's where my spiritual connection is, because like 80s, I love the 80s because of like 80s metal and all that kind of culture and stuff, but kind of like I love seeing where it started and like in the late 70s when that started to get motion and stuff like that. So yeah,
I have a big spiritual connection to the set. Plus I love the fashion.
Yeah.
And then you could just be like fashion a weird pervert man. It was a good time to be a man and alive. I like to think I was a male in my past life. I just feel it. I can see it. I feel it, yeah.
I can see it.
I like to think that I was a really, like, disgusting pervert man. And, like, I gave in to my vices. Like, I probably, like, did cocaine.
Since we're
all
twins,
that.
Like, last minute, we traded our chromosomes. And then you came out woman, I came out man.
Yeah, man. Like, I got, like, my... What is it called? I got my fucking weird punishment for being a bad man. And now I was born as a woman. Maybe we knew each other in our past lives, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe we were 70s. Drug buddies, bro.
Drug buddies from the 70s.
Oh my god, that's why we get along so well, dude. It was just like, bro, I used to do drugs with this guy.
Way back when.
Yeah, we used to snort cocaine together. That was us, dude.
Yeah, look at me, straight edge in the
Yeah, that's what
2020s.
happened. Like, you got the trauma from your past life.
I learned my lesson. I cleaned up my act in the next life.
Yeah, sometimes you clean up your act. Like, now I'm like a big feminist and shit. Like, we cleaned up our act.
We're cleaned up, yeah.
Yeah, like, the cycle of Samsara, like, she definitely knows what's up. Like, she knows what's happening. Like... What was I saying?
Satanic Panic!
Whoa, Satanic Panic, bro! I was there, bro!
You caused it.
Oh my god, I was... In my past life, I was totally there. And we were there together.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm glad that bit went over well. I wasn't sure at first if I should mention that. But anyways, the 80s, Satanic Panic. So, we have Mr. Anton LaVey. I don't know how to say his name.
What the heck were you looking at?
Anton LaVey.
LaVey. Anton? Like, you could say it real with no accent. Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey writes the Book of Satan. It's not called the Book of Satan, is it? So, the Satanic Bible gets published.
What year?
Stop. In the 80s, bro.
Okay.
Shut the fuck
Okay,
up.
do it again. One more time. Sorry. I'm going to be asking years on all this stuff.
What are you going to be?
I figured it's relevant.
It was like,
we just keep going, like, this happened in the 80s. When? Like, 80s, it's a 10-year span.
So? Happened somewhere around there.
Like, it's crazy to think if it happened in 1980, it's like, wow, yeah, I can understand. But if it happened in 1989, it's like, we people, like, did this late?
Oh, hold on, let me look it up. Oh, it was published in 1969, so it was the 70s.
I mean, 69 is the 60s.
69, bruh.
We went to the moon at the same time.
Yeah? Cool. Why do you know that? Are you just like someone that like remembers dates?
There was a show called Even Stevens, and I think, what was the sister's name? Because Steven was the boy, right? And his sister Ren.
I don't remember.
And she sings a song, "We went to the moon in 1969. Something not a year sooner." That's the only reason I remember that, is because she sang a song about it.
That's
Satanic
great.
Bible.
So the Satanic Bible is published in 1969, so that's close to the 70s. So around this time, we start to see a breakdown of traditional values, whatever that is, because traditional values seem to change every 5 years.
Yeah,
Something
is
different.
tradition to change.
Yeah, the traditional whatever. So yeah, there's this real pushback against traditional displays, traditional...
Yeah, we're talking about, like, it's, from what I understand, stems from the free love movement.
The dang old hippie.
The hippie movement.
We also have the civil rights movement happening, and then we got the dang gays just hanging out.
Gays.
The dang old gays.
Trying to be themselves, and
just literally,
no one will let them.
Literally just trying to live their life, so people are just like, dang, this sucks.
Other people
living their lives. I fucking hate this shit.
They're not doing as I do.
They're not living their lives exactly like I, a white male, am living it. And that makes me really upset. And, you know, we talk about the Church of Satan. I think we're going to have a whole episode about the Church of Satan. For right now, what I will say about the Church of Satan is that it's a lot of beliefs about self-actualization. They don't actually believe in Satan. I have called them edgy atheists in the past. That is what they are.
Essentially. So, from my understanding of, like, the Church of Satan and the Satanic Bible, it's not that these people believe in Satan, that they believe that this being exists. It's more of the idea of this being that, from my understanding, is that in the biblical story, Lucifer wants to become God, or wants to be seen as someone like God, gets cast out of heaven along with other fallen angels, and he's like, I am your
like
God.
Super hot the whole time.
And super hot as he's falling from grace. Very gracefully falling from grace.
Sexily
falling from grace. Like twinkles and sparkles all the way down. And then he has his fallen angels, and he's like, I'm going to be God, and you're going to follow me. And so from what I understand, the Satanist movement, that particular Satanist movement, is about treating yourself as your own God. You become God, and you become center of your world. And you, it's kind of like focus on yourself first before anyone else. Kind of put yourself first. Now, I would love some Satanists to come in and really explain that, but that's my understanding, how I've been explained from other people that I know who claim that Satanist belief.
So this is just a reflection of like changing values in society. Like people, they're not following their church as closely as they used to, you know, and it's kind of just been happening progressively. Like there are less churchgoers than there is every year, and this instills a fear in these institutions that they no longer have believers. And they don't no longer get funding.
Oh no.
They don't get their dang old funding anymore.
People are voting with their wallets.
I know, what the fuck?
Or what they truly believe in.
And so all of this spins into like this crazy era. Yeah, so everyone's kind of doing their own dang thing. There is a couple of celebrities that do end up self-identifying as Satanists. So now we have this group of people out there that are calling themselves Satanist. So it's kind of a crazy time to be alive. And around 1980, you fucking love dates so much.
Yay, 1980! I have a reference for what we're talking about.
So in 1980, there is this what is now considered a faux autobiography called Michelle Remembers. So Michelle Remembers is... Hold on a minute. Michelle Remembers is this autobiography of Michelle Smith. It's co-authored by her psychiatrist, Lawrence Panzer. So what happened is Miss Michelle Smith, she goes to therapy, and then under hypnosis, she talks about all of these crazy things that happened to her. So she talks about just crazy. She talks about how she used to be part of cults, and they had like ritual sacrifices and ritual orgies and crazy fucked up sex and crazy fucked up ritual killings. And in my personal opinion, I don't know how I feel about hypnosis. I think that if you it's like getting high, you know? Like
kind of what I heard about the hypnosis process is that I think it's like medication induced. A lot of it was. And like a lot of it, like you're under medications and you're under heavy drugs, and then they're trying to evoke memories out of you, and the therapist or whoever is kind of almost feeding you the information to see if they can get a response. They think that they're going to pull out like deep memories out of you that way, but maybe subconsciously you're just creating the thoughts that they're putting in your head. Like from what I've heard about this, the therapists kind of get the person to say whatever they want them to say.
And that's going to be important later on, because we do have this situation where like kids are at one point told there's a specific thing that police want them to say, and the kids will say whatever they want to say in order to get those people to go away. You know, police interrogations can be like pretty fucking brutal. And at some point they harass you so much where it's just like you'll just fucking say anything for it to be over with. And on top of Michelle Remembers, published in 1980.
Yeah. We got a year. Yeah.
On top of that, like she also served as one of the... So she was called onto the stand to testify against the famous case of like... You've heard of it. It's like the daycare that was accused of like holding satanic rituals.
I was just learning about that daycare. Learning daycare. What is the name of the daycare?
So it was the McMartin trial.
The McMartin trial because of the McMartin daycare, correct? Or is that elementary school or is it a daycare?
Do you want me to look up what the daycare was called?
I'm sorry, I didn't know you didn't have that in your notes.
We're just going...
I'll do the research. What, you want to be alone?
Oh, you want to know, like, the place and everything? Okay.
I wanted to talk about that a lot. That was, like, kind of a big point that I wanted to...
The McMartin preschool trial. So the McMartin was in the It just says an abuse case of the 1980s. They don't have a specific year. And it was in Los Angeles. So... she was pivotal in the McMartin trial. McMartin was a daycare that was like in LA. It was around 1983 is where they got like the first accusations. Mm-hmm. So, as I said, this isn't a true crime show, so I'll just give you like the wet and dirty version of it. As we always do, HauntsRUs is known for their wet and dirty use of facts and information.
The McMartin preschool trial. So... how it seems to start out is a woman claims that her child was being sexually abused from a teacher there at the school. Some staff on school. I don't know if it was a teacher, but it was a staff on school. And she brings it up to the police and says that they're sexually abusing my kid there. And also brings up that the kid saw some horrendous things that was there and is telling the mom. So the police go open an investigation, and it's just this thing that snowballs really fast where she's claiming that all these horrendous things have happened to her kid, but the police get involved and they got to start doing an investigation, but they're taking a lot of things being said at face value. And so it's just this lady claiming this. And so they go and they ask the kid, like, what happened? Did this happen to you? Did this not happen to you and stuff? And, you're asking a kid a lot of real serious adult questions, and the kid may not even understand what you're asking them, what being sodomized means or anything like that. Or did they touch you in the wrong place? Or are they doing, like, rituals and stuff there? So how it just kind of snowballs, to sum it up real quick, is that a kid starts like saying, oh yeah, this happened, that happened. And then they start asking other kids, hey kids, did any of this happen to you? And they keep asking more and more kids because they're like, there must be something going on. Obviously this, we wouldn't be talking about it if something wasn't going on. And the kids are kind of like, oh, we don't know, nothing unusual. We're just kids, or we don't know what you're talking about. And then they slowly start speaking up like, yeah, this happened. Yeah, they're doing these bad things. Yeah, they're torturing people here. Yeah, they're taking us in tunnels underground. Yeah. And so then all of a sudden, all these kids are saying that they're doing these things because there's parents and teachers and police like interrogating them. Like, kids, did this happen to you? Tell us yes that it happened.
Yeah, and it's very leading questions like, did people start doing ritual abuse? And like, it's important to note, like, at this time, Michelle remembers like pretty much kickstarted this thing. So a lot of police officers were told to read that, so that way they knew what ritual murders and sacrifices look like. And there's also, it's not on YouTube, but there is a police training video where there's like a guy who's just like, hey, my name's what's-his-face. I used to be a Satanist, and let me take you to the park, and I'll show you how Satanists make ritual murders here in the public park. A thing that all Satanists do.
That's awesome. I'll watch that video.
So, some of the Parks and Rec's, like, greatest, what is it called? Some of their greatest fucking patrons are the dang old Satanists.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the police are pretty much being pumped with, like, this information and these rumors about, like, ritual sacrifices and all this fucked up stuff. And they have reason to believe it because we talk about the serial killers of like the 70s that had like a very specific way that they did murders. A very specific way that they would murder people, and they would call that ritualistic. But I mean, I guess we'll decide if this joke is too spicy or not. But I mean, like, if you kill a person one way and it works, I mean, why change the recipe?
Why change the recipe? It's good.
Like, if it works, dude. I mean, I don't know. Like, I make banana bread and I make it the same every way.
Banana bread comes out good. Why change the formula? Hey, I make a good banana bread. Hey, I kill a person. Like, why change the formula? It worked this last time.
It worked the same way last time.
Yeah. It ain't broke. I don't feel like experimenting. I don't need any new spice to this. Yeah. So we'll dig into the time period, I guess. So talking about the elementary school. So with the elementary school, it becomes this big investigation. All these stories of the kids being abused by teachers and staff. It's started with one woman saying her one child was abused by one person, and eventually they pried enough out of the kids to make the kids say that everyone was involved, and there was tunnels and there was sacrifice and it was all evil. And they even, like, in the investigations, were excavating the ground to find the tunnels that these kids were being pulled through and stuff. Apparently they would take them through tunnels and do rituals down there, and nothing was found. They never found any of this stuff. They never actually found any signs of abuse. All the stories and all the things that came out of it were just taken from face value, and there was no evidence to back up that any of these things happened.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially it was a complete witch hunt, like just saying, you're a witch, let's burn you at the stakes, or let's hang you, or something like that. That's what was happening with this case, where it's just like, let's arrest everyone. Everyone's a sexual abuser, but there was nothing backing it. The lady that kicked off the trial, the one that started it all, I think later was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Like after that
and
whole thing.
Schizophrenia, like you get a lot of crazy delusions and psychosis. I don't know, religious or is it called religious psychosis? Yeah, religious psychosis is something that folks who have that get that a lot. So, you know, psychosis, no judgment to people who are dealing with their mental health, but like religious psychosis tends to be one of the more common things. And like I've known a couple of people that like get psychosis and it's like pretty gnarly. Like they'll just have like these beliefs that cannot be disproved in their own mind, and they'll just take it as fact. They'll be like, oh, the common one that's like in Hispanic culture is just like, I saw a Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
That's I would hear that from a lot of people. It's like
I've heard that one.
Yeah, Virgin Mary appeared to me and like spoke to me, and she told me this, and that. That's a psychotic episode.
Yeah.
I love you, all of my religious folks and religious family members, but if that happens to you, that's a psychotic episode, baby.
Get a carbon monoxide test for your house.
Yeah.
Like, or dioxide. Carbon dioxide? Which one's the...
carbon monoxide?
What's the one where you have to get that, like, if you start getting what's the word?
Hallucinations?
Yeah. What's the one that when you start getting hallucinations in your house that you need to get, like, a carbon monoxide test?
It might be a carbon monoxide, but monoxide.
Yeah, so all you people out there, you got the Virgin Mary talking to you, get a carbon monoxide test first.
Also, maybe replace your pipes.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing to note is in the summer of 1984, 17-year-old drug dealer and self-proclaimed Satanist Ricky Casso murdered his friend Gary Lowers in the woods of Newport, New York, while high on mescaline. I don't even know what that drug is. What is mescaline?
I am not the right person to ask about drugs.
Oh, I mean, I feel like if in our past lives we would know what that was.
Back way when in the 70s.
When we met each other originally in the 70s, we would have known what mescaline was.
Maybe you were the person that dealed to this guy
this was
that
us.
was high on.
Anyways, that's not an appropriate joke to make.
Nope, not at all.
According to the coroner's report, Casso allegedly stabbed his friend 36 times Casso allegedly stabbed his friend 36 times and sliced out his eyes, which led to media propagation that the murder was realistic in nature, hyper-realistic even, ritualistic in nature. So for months, the media presented Casso as a Satanist. They said that he was part of a cult, which further fueled the hysteria. He said he was part of the Knights of the Black Circle, was supposedly the name that he was part of. But as we know, the Satanists are not known for being organized, in my experience. So people will talk about like how these folks were part of a cult, but usually it is just an individual who's carrying out this psychosis episode and like does something terrible. It happens.
Knights of the Black Circle is a cool name.
It is. A really
I'm sure
cool
there's
name.
a band out there that's
It's like you could steal it, bro.
I'm gonna look it up. That'd be a bad thing to steal, but yeah. What do you call? So during his trial, actually, no. What's the part where it says he's wearing an AC/DC shirt?
Yeah.
Oh, so when he was arrested, he's wearing an AC/DC shirt, and immediately fingers start pointing to things like that. Like, you know, the kid's gonna go out, he's gonna murder someone, he's gonna be high on drugs, he's gonna say he's a Satanist. And then he's wearing like an AC/DC t-shirt. You're gonna make affiliations with those kind of things. It's unfortunate that that's the way it was going to go, that rock music was going to get blamed for a lot of this kind of satanic panic stuff. I think this guy was also a fan of Ozzy. I think they quote a lot about Ozzy and Judas Priest, and it's unfortunate that is what got targeted by it, that people were going to say it was rock music that had to have had a big influence on this guy. I mean, yeah, he could have liked rock music. He could have liked any kind of music, but he liked rock music. But also at the same time, I do have to admit that rock music didn't do anything to help themselves, because it was all about dark imagery. It was all about kind of evil and wickedness. But it was just like, the form of art. You would listen to pop music, and pop music's not going to be about fighting inner demons or drug abuse or stuff like that. At least maybe not at the time, or maybe not the super big pop hits. But rock artists were talking about that. They were talking about negative things and dark things, and it was just a way of expressing art. But then you have like actual evil things happening, and of course people are going to look at the first thing that relates to that. And yeah, like Mr. Ozzy Osbourne, who's singing about some pretty dark stuff, and then here's this kid who's a fan of Ozzy, does dark stuff, and you're going to think, well, it's because Ozzy said so. So it's a real unfortunate thing that I gotta say, if I put myself back in that situation, and I heard that this kid murdered his friend, and he's a self-proclaimed Satanist, and he's, kind of spewing this nonsense about this, I would even look like, well, there's these like scary music people out there. Like, yeah, AC/DC's one of them. They're one of them scary people. They play the loud, scary music. So unfortunate that they got, pinned for that and started getting attention their way, but at the same time, they weren't doing anything to help themselves.
Yeah, they also called AC/DC. They're just like, actually, it stands for Antichrist Devil Child.
That's amazing. I've never heard that.
What does AC/DC actually stand for, though?
It's the electrical currents. It's like your AC and your DC. It's an electrical term.
That's fucking boring as shit.
And okay, and then like it literally comes like, if you look at like an electronic, it'll say like it's DC output or it's AC output input or something like that. It just has to do with electrical current, which is why like AC/DC has like the lightning bolt as their logo for everything. Also funny because they're from Australia.
AC/DC is Australian?
They're Australian.
Oh, that means they're bastards, dude.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Australian people.
AC/DC was also, from what I understand, a slang for being 50-50, which meant like kind of being gay, being bisexual.
What?
So like they didn't use it as that, but people were saying like, oh, they're gay because they're AC/DC, they're 50-50.
Isn't there a band member that was like a big leather daddy, or was that another band?
That's Judas Priest.
Oh, so that's Judas Priest.
You get into Judas Priest, you have Rob Halford, who is the leather daddy, like the guy, the metal god, as he's referred to as. But yeah, full leather, real skin tight clothes. He is very gay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and in a way, wearing all that leather and being like that was a way of coming out without saying that he came out.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of men saw it as a sign of masculinity, of like the leather and like there's chains.
There's nothing gay about fucking dudes, bro.
Yeah, there's nothing gay at all. And so he made this like fashion statement for men, and they treated it like a very masculine look, even though he was doing it because he was gay and kind of expressing his sexuality that way. So funny thing with that. But yeah, and then Judas Priest getting pulled into this like satanic thing and stuff like that. It's kind of sad because they sang a lot about like free loving and stuff like that. And then they had some pretty more metal stuff, more metal themes, more actiony, violent kind of stuff. But it was never, I wouldn't say their music was ever truly dark, and like I wouldn't feel that their music should be portrayed as scary. It was just very like rock and roll and loud. I would say like Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne, their intent was to be kind of more in the horror aspect of things. So like Black Sabbath, I could totally understand where you would like hear that and be like, this is scary. And like, I don't understand, or this scares me. The idea was like, you watch a scary movie to get scared. Well, what if we made a CD or an album, I should say, an album where you get scared?
Yeah, and also we're talking about the 80s, so we have Nightmare on Elm Street. We have a lot of the pop horror icons come out of like
horror's
the
popping.
80s. Yeah.
Horror's
and
popping.
So like that only adds fuel to the fire.
More fuel to the fire.
And speaking of Judas Priest, we actually have an individual that tried to sue Judas Priest. So the story here says that there was a fear of heavy metal containing lyrics that encourage people to do bad things. So, in 1985, 20-year-old James Vance tried to sue Judas Priest. After a night of partying, Vance and his friend, 18-year-old Raymond, headed to the local playground and shot themselves. Raymond wouldn't survive the incident, but Vance would go on and file a lawsuit against Judas Priest as he claimed that the subliminal messagings within their Stained Glass album drove him to the act. Is this an album you're familiar with?
Stained Glass, not so much. Let me start again. Judas Priest, yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of Judas Priest.
Very gay.
Very gay, but very manly at the same time.
Nothing gay about fucking dudes, bro. Same joke. I gotta tell it 3 times, and then it'll be super funny. Go on.
Anyways, So I'm a fan of Judas Priest, and I remember seeing the interviews for this when they were interviewing Rob Halford, or they were interviewing one of the members, and I believe it was Rob Halford who was saying like, so the issue is that people were claiming that there was satanic messages in albums when you played them backwards. So for whatever reason, you get your turntable and you play the music backwards, and you will hear messages in there in the reverse languages, and they would say something demonic. And you could look them up. You can look up all the cases of like Judas Priest or Led Zeppelin where you listen to the records backwards, and it's a stretch. It's an absolute stretch of what you think you're hearing or what you're making out. And even if you hear it and you think like, yeah, actually that does sound like they're saying this thing in a way. I tell you now, no musician is that smart that they know that they're going to say something and it's going to sound like 2 different messages forward, backwards. At least, like, with these heavy metal records that these people were making, there was no intent for them to ever be played backwards. There was no intent for subliminal messages and stuff. I think it was Rob Halford who said on record, I wouldn't have put, or we didn't put any like satanic messages or anything. If we were to put a subliminal message, we would put buy more records.
Yeah.
You know, because it wasn't like an intent to like do an occult thing. It was like, hey, we just want to make money off of more records. We're just a band that likes entertaining people. We're doing this all for entertainment. There's no like other motive behind any of this stuff. So it's pretty funny to like see people. Like, I'm sure if you put on every piece of music out there and put it backwards, you're going to hear something eventually out of all of it, you know. We people like to hear voices, and we like to hear, like associate things. If we hear a dog barking off in the distance and we think it sounds like a voice, and we try to make out what kind of voice that is or what it's saying and stuff. Like, we're susceptible to that. And so, like, playing music backwards and hearing someone talk, not necessarily in English, you're going to try to make reaches for something in English and stuff. And who's to say someone that speaks French or understands French, they're not going to hear something completely different because, they have a different dialogue, to reference from.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of music, we also have, around this time, this music's getting out of whack. At least the conservatives seem to think. Like, we have rock artists that are talking about drugs, sex, rock and roll, and all that sort of stuff. It's all on the waves. Like, the kids are hearing it. The parents are upset. So in 1985, we got a committee known as the Parents Music Resource, and they coined the Filthy 15, which was used as a template to propose new legislation to, like, essentially, like, rate music. Nowadays, we have the adult advisory little tag, so it's not great. Man, I remember Eminem having that giant adult advisory on, like, one of his albums.
I was 18 when I bought my first explicit album by myself. I had been listening to explicit music. My dad was getting me all kinds, but when I was 18, that was a good memory of walking in the store, and there was an album called Machine Fucking Head. And I'm like, I picked it up and I'm like, wait, I gotta ask my dad. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm an adult.
You're an adult.
I went and I'm like, I put it on the counter at Best Buy and I'm like, I want this fucking album. And the guy's just like looking at me like, sure. He didn't like card me or nothing either. And it was just kind of lame because I wanted to be like, yeah, I'm an adult. I could buy the CD.
Kids, they have it too good these days.
Fun fact, it's actually 17 is the age to buy explicit CDs.
Oh, yeah. 17?
17.
Nice. These kids, they can just stream it. They don't check.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting thing to think about, that there's no... I guess there is parental advisory on streaming, but there's really not a way
to, like, enforce it.
To enforce it at all. Like, unless your parent goes into your account and sets it up saying no explicit content, there really isn't a way to monitor that anymore.
No, dude.
Which is... It's tough to say for the better, for the worse. It'd be for the better if every parent would have a conversation like, look, you're going to hear things that may not be appropriate or things I don't want you to repeat. If you have any questions or you just want to know something, come talk to me. But by all means, just know that the music is, there's going to be some wild stuff that you might hear in it. And, that'd be a great conversation as a parent to have with kids. But nah, kids are being raised by TikTok, so...
Yeah, TikTok's pretty bad, dude. I have to
really bad.
I have to fucking get myself off of that shit, dude. It's fucking poisoning me, dude.
Yeah, and imagine just kids being raised on it. That's horrible. That's horrible. Horrible.
But yeah, the Filthy 15. Let's go over them.
Yes.
All right, let's roast them. All right.
So these are the songs that let's see. The Filthy 15th was used to serve as a template for proposed legislation regarding how albums should be rated, suggesting that they should come with extra warnings with the content pertaining to sex, violence, drugs, alcohol, or the occult. Of the 15 songs, 9 were metal. And so here are the songs that were proposed, and I'll just kind of talk about them a little bit. So, Judas Priest, Eat Me Alive, Motley Crue's Bastard, AC/DC's Let Me Put My Love Into You, Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It, Wasps, Animal, Fuck Like a Beast.
Hell.
Def Leppard's High and Dry, Merciful Fate's Into the Coven, Black Sabbath's Thrashed, and Venom's Possessed. Now, looking at this list, I'd like to think of myself as a big heavy metal fan, and I'd like to say, I know a lot of this music really well. I know all these bands, but some of these songs are not songs that I know off the top of my head, which is funny. What that tells me is that these aren't even the most popular songs or the biggest bangers or anything like that. This is kind of like deep cuts from what it looks like. So, however these 15 songs were regarded as the songs to set the template for, I think is kind of funny. The one that I think, was a big hit was Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It.
We're not gonna take it.
Yeah, and that song, no, I can't even imagine how that must have been a backwards recording or something like that, because the message is pretty straightforward. hey, you, quit pushing your lifestyle on me. We're not going to take it. And I'm standing up against you.
Ain't that what they're trying to do, the traditionalists? They're just like, well, we don't like when people don't do the thing that we say that they should do.
So this song particularly is funny because it's very much about like traditional and conservative views, and this band saying, we're not going to take it. We're not going to be like you, and you can't enforce that on us. And in this today's age, it was, Twitter, the mess that Twitter is, people writing about how that's like the perfect conservative anthem. So conservative people, and I'm not just saying like like a regular conservative person. I'm talking about like far right kind of people who their life and everything is being conservative. Their whole world is that people writing and saying that, oh my God, Twisted Sister wrote the most perfect conservative anthem that we're not going to take what the liberals are doing to us, and we're going to stand up against them. But it's funny because that song came from the opposite. It's like, no, they're standing up against your views, your people, that your conservative views. And I think they were like writing back and forth between the singer Dee Snider. Dee Snider was like laughing at him. It's like, you think I actually wrote that about conservative views? Like, I cross dress. That is what I do as a performer. Like, I dress as a woman and stuff. And so I think the response was like, you were, how to say, not possessed is not the right word, but you were controlled by God. God helped you write those words, and then you put that song out there, and that's a message for us. That's it's been like a funny, more recent argument about this song, and it's funny because it's like, looking at it here, the conservatives were saying this is the evil song and stay away from this, and no one should ever listen to this. And
it doesn't even sound that evil. I mean, it's not death metal or anything. Yeah,
and then in this day and age, the conservatives are like, yeah, this is our anthem.
Oh, yeah, they just like fucking Rage Against the Museum.
Rage Against the Museum. Yeah, fuck the museums. Good for nothing.
Just wasting tax dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, what is it? Rage Against the
Machine. Rage Against the Machine with that killing in the name.
Killing in the name of.
They like it because it's like that. Fuck you! I ain't gonna do what you tell me.
I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah. Fuck you! I won't do what you tell me. And it's like, these real far right people are just like, oh yeah, that's us saying we won't do what you tell me, the government can't control me and stuff. But
just like me, for real, dude,
for real. But then, like, Rage Against the Machine, the famous communist band, and all that stuff, and was against a lot of these things these far right people were for. So irony is lost on this. So it's kind of a shame. It's poetic in a way, and at the same time, it's sad.
So, like, why do you think heavy metal in particular is like so closely associated? Because like some of these bands, like, they do have, like, they take the symbolism and like they flaunt it, or like they try to market themselves as the evil band. Like, nowadays it's a little bit more transparent. Like, we understand what building a brand is. Like, we at HauntsRUs have like a weird fucking brand that we try to carry. And like, everyone knows it's fucking ironic. Everyone knows it's not real. But like, back in those days, like, people weren't familiar with like this sort of marketing. So like, when we talk about like guerrilla marketing, why do you think like these bands would like try to adopt something that's dark and satanic and broody?
A lot of it was it roots from just counterculture. It's it comes from that conservative Christian moral view where, you have to pray to God, you have to go to church, you have to, follow the rules of the Bible, and you can't sway, you can't step away from it, you can't do anything to deviate from it. Having sex before marriage is impure, and like, you should be spending your money here, you shouldn't be buying these things. All of that kind of thing, like that, just that parent speaking down to a child, you must behave and you must act this way. And so, heavy metal, big move of rebellion. Heavy metal sprouted a lot from rebellion, and like singing and talking about things that are, I guess, taboo.
Mm-hmm.
So, sex and drugs, people, especially at the time, saying, don't do drugs, you're just wasting your life. This is your brain on pot. And also like sex. You shouldn't be having sex, and that's
sex
filthy.
Is illegal.
Sex is illegal.
You shouldn't do
You will get pregnant and you will die.
Horny people have no rights.
Have no rights and all that kind of stuff. So like the music definitely was about that kind of stuff, to say like, let's have sex all the time and it's great and loving is great and I want to make love to every woman, and then talking about like drugs, like, yeah, this is my brain on drugs and I wrote a song about it, or this is what it's like to play with this drugs, or this is what I saw in my hallucinations, or this is what I feel like. I feel invincible and that kind of stuff. Definitely talking about like taboo subjects and making a piece of art out of it. And then people, I'll relate it this way. When I was young, I didn't swear a lot. Like I was very against swearing because I felt like my parents would tell me, no, don't swear, and that's bad, and I'd get punished for it. And I didn't like it when people were swearing, because I just felt like that's icky and you shouldn't be saying those things. And then I remember my dad turning me on to heavy metal, and I think I was like listening to Slipknot, and not only was uncomfortable hearing like the F word, but to hear it screamed out of like the top of someone's lungs over and over and over again, like blew me away, because I just felt like this is so wrong what this guy is saying, but like he's expressing like something that I cannot express. And I remember feeling like this is awesome, because this guy is saying something that I can't say, and he's saying it in a way that I wish I could say it, but I can't say it. And so I feel like that connection that I made to that kind of music, I've seen it related to other people. Like, someone, their parents are like, when are you going to grow up? When are you going to get a real job? And then this guy listened to a song. It's like, yeah, I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. And he's like, dude, there's other people out there that feel this way.
He's just like me for real.
He's just like me, man. And you know what? Like, they tell me, don't look gay, don't wear makeup, don't be girly, you're a man, be a man. And then here's all these men with perms, with makeup, with glitter, with spandex, and they're very frilly. And you know what? But like, they're rocking it and girls love them. So, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, man, that shit ain't gay.
That shit ain't gay.
That shit ain't gay, bro.
That ain't gay at all. Let's dress like a woman.
Yeah, bro, she looks tight.
She looks tight. Yeah. So what do you call? That's kind of where like heavy metal takes its roots. It's just like this rebellious nature, where it gets into that dark and like satanic thing or demonic thing. I would just refer to it as demonic, as more of a broad term. That's also because it comes from taboo. Like you can't talk about those things. You can't talk about like evil or witchcraft or even just like how to say, not even like that kind of like spiritualistic thing. Talk about like murder, talk about killing, talk about violence, it's so icky to talk about. And like if I was a kid sitting in class and I was just like, man, I just really want to kill someone right now,
which
like,
is a normal teenage thought to have.
It's a normal teenage thought to have. Like you say it to yourself just to express a feeling, not because like you actually want to kill somebody or something like that. But you'd be told you're a maniac for ever saying that. Like, I just really want to kill somebody. But maybe you just say that as a way to get it out of your system, flush that thought out, and maybe laugh about it. Like, haha, that sounds deranged, like that's so crazy. Like when I hear it back to myself. And then like for me, when I listen to like music like that's like talking about like violence or something, it's like cathartic. It's just like, man, I've had that thought. It doesn't mean I'd ever act on that thought, but to just hear someone just say the words really in your face, it feels good. Like it releases you. It releases those thoughts from you. And they're no longer, I would say, like, I feel that a thought like that wouldn't manifest in me anymore. It got its release. It's got its closure.
Yeah, man. That reminds me, I remember I had like a brief conversation with my parents-in-law. We happen to have like they happen to have someone in their family, very young, who had like experienced a lot of tragedies back to back. You know, when it rains, it pours.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going through a hard time, and as a result of that, they were getting into the emo culture.
Mm-hmm.
So they were listening to a lot of like My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
They were listening to a lot of that stuff. And like I remember they were talking about like, oh, we're really concerned about her because she's listening to all this like sad music, and like what if she acts out on it? You know, this music, like My Chemical Romance in particular, like they do talk about like suicide and suicide attempts
and killing
and but they do it in a very like theatric way. So they do it very over the top, very flamboyant, which is what makes them great. I fucking love them.
Yeah, well, my second favorite band, My Chemical.
And I remember my mother-in-law said something along the lines of like, well, I think maybe you guys should recommend her some happier music. And I felt like low-key a little bit offended because it's like, you want her to be happy that all these bad things happen to her? Like, she's allowed to like express these thoughts and like compartmentalize them. Because like she can't just have it bottled up and like pretend everything's all right, because everything was not all right.
Yeah.
Like she was going through like a really hard time and like dealing with death and all of these things.
Yeah.
And like at her age, like how are you supposed to like deal with that when no one wants to talk about it? Like no one's gonna like talk about like how to mourn correctly.
Yeah. Oh,
no
just listen to happy music. Everything's okay. Clap your hands, sing Kumbaya.
Like... It's very Americanized. I think in American culture, we like to live in a state of denial.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Because, like, in Mexico, like, death is very open. Like, I think I talk about death in, like, such a casual way that it can be off-putting sometimes.
And you just got to, man. Like, you know, it makes it easier because it makes it very... not a taboo subject. Like, we should be able to talk about death, and we should be able to talk about mourning and loss and stuff. Because, I mean, honestly, if you don't talk about things, it bottles up. It bottles up really bad. So this family member you're talking about getting into like My Chemical Romance and stuff. You know, like they didn't have a way of coping or talking or something like that. And so, like, you know, people are looking for something to relate to. When you hear music that's like that, where it's like talking about death and loss and tragedy and stuff, it's just something to relate to. It's like, you know what? I'm going through tragedy and loss and heartbreak and like trying to understand myself. And then this person's singing about that. Like there's another person out there that gets it, that knows how to express what I'm feeling that I can't express.
Yeah.
And I can totally see getting hooked on that. And then telling someone, oh, you should just listen to happy music. That's one of the worst things you could possibly do.
It's very Americanized. Because I know when like Americans deal with death, this is my death, and goes, this is really my death podcast.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about ghosts, we're talking about histories that people don't want to talk about. So when we talk about like ghost stories and things, it's always like something bad happened here. And like it refuses to be silent. Things are happening because this thing that happened was so bad that it's become a never-ending cycle for these spirits that have to relive it over and over again.
A lot of pent-up negative energy.
We talk about negative energies and stuff.
Yeah. It's funny because like I've never had ghost experiences or ghost stories or anything like that. And when people talk about like hauntings and haunted stuff, I'm very quick to just like, you know, dismiss a lot of that just because it's, you know, my perspective. I've never seen it, never had it, watch ghost shows, stuff like that. But I do believe in like enough pent up negative energy can manifest something. So even though I've never seen that, it's something that I wouldn't even mess around with, just knowing that like, hey, you know, like, do I believe that my car is haunted because it's making weird noise? No. And no matter how much I'm imagining it, no, I don't believe that. But going to a place that had a lot of death, a lot of torture, a lot of killing, and then not, I guess, respecting that kind of thing, that bad things would happen to you. because you're not respecting just this amount of energy that was put out right here. I kind of a bastard way to explain what I'm thinking, but
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to talk about. Like,
we had a dog. We have a haunted dog. He goes down that hall, attacked a gato, and then I found out that the previous owner, who passed away, did have a pet dog.
did they torture that dog?
I don't know. Maybe the dog. Spirits can be like very. How do you say? Possessive. So, like, if you're a ghost dog and you see new people in the house that aren't supposed to be there, aren't you gonna act out? So yeah, definitely the first couple of days I was here was a little bit weird.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
This person, the last owner of this house, passed away in 2017, and we bought this place in like 2021 or 2022. So after 2 years, they don't have to tell you if someone passed away in the house. So big think. Like, if I would have asked if someone died in this house, they would have had to tell me. But because the 2 years had passed, they don't have to say anything. Anyways, there are laws in place because aggressive hauntings have happened, and I do want to make an episode about it because all of these laws are written and like with really weird stories behind them.
Yeah, and that's interesting because if you're saying like I don't want to dismiss what you're saying, you're saying there's a haunted dog in your hallway, like by all means, if there's a haunted dog in your hallway, what do you call? And then I'd be very curious to see.
Yeah.
But just remember, people, you stay quiet long enough, you hold your breath long enough, you listen for sounds long enough, you start hearing stuff.
Probably one of like the most famous cases of like a quote unquote satanic band is the story of Mayhem.
Mayhem, yeah. So I'll give my I don't even want to say stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, Mayhem. So for those people who don't know the band Mayhem, so the band Mayhem, see, it looks like they were. So the band Mayhem, starting in 1984. Here's just a brief story for you people who don't know about Mayhem. So they were a heavy metal band. They were they're credited as starting the black metal movement. Mm-hmm. So black metal, the difference between these heavy metals. There's heavy metal, there's death metal, there's black metal, there's doom metal, all these different things. What defines black metal? Black metal is very fast and very shrieky kind of music. So when you talk about like screaming and shrieking, if it sounds like a pterodactyl, it's probably more in the black metal range. Yeah. It's very shrieky kind of vocals, very fast guitars. I mean, all that music's pretty fast, but so black metal was it was its own culture of people. So the band Mayhem, they're infamous for starting church burnings. They're infamous for like one of the members committing suicide. They're infamous that one member killed the other member and then went to prison, and his final when they convicted him guilty, he's on camera and he looks at the camera and he smiles that he's going to go away to prison because he murdered the other band member. They were a cultural phenomenon where these people in this black metal movement, this band was saying, we got to go burn churches because, fuck the churches and fuck religious people and stuff. So they were committing arson, and people involved in that were committing arson. What do you call it? With the singer, or not the singer, one of the members committing suicide, he shot his head off. I think he took a shotgun, shot his head off. And what the other band members did was they took a picture and they used that picture as album artwork for one of their next follow-up albums. So if you look at the album, you can see a guy's head shot off. And then they wore pieces of his skull as necklaces. And so all the members had that. To me, or like, how to say, that was just a very like evil thing that was going on. And, we say it was the black metal movement, which kind of relates it to music, and that's talking about music. But like these people, they were just doing evil things. they had music as kind of a secondary thing involving them. It was a way to, like, I guess, get more people involved. We're all relating to music. People relate through music. But at the end of the day, it wasn't about music. It was just about these people and their ideologies and what we should be doing. We should burn the church, and we should be evil, and we should be satanic and that kind of stuff. But how to say, it really makes music and heavy metal music look really bad. Again, makes it look really bad. And I really wish that, like, people could see the separation between art and what these people were doing. Because at this point, these people were not doing art anymore. They were just causing crimes. They were doing crimes and being real infamous and stuff like that. And so, what do you call when people think about, like, demonic or satanic things in heavy metal music, that's definitely one of the first things that people will look at. Is like, oh, they burn churches, oh, they kill each other, oh, they do drugs, they do blood rituals and all that kind of stuff. These people that are doing those kind of things, it's not because of the music. They would be doing that anyways if they had music or not. It's just that the music is the surface level thing that kind of got people's attention. It's like, oh, wait, this is musical genre. Oh, this is what people do when they listen to this kind of musical genre. It's not the case. It's just what those kind of people would have done anyways, but they have music. I don't know if my point's getting across, but it's, I feel like
it is, because
two separate things. How to say it? It's two separate things. They're, one, creating art. That's period at the end of the sentence. Music's done. It's recorded. It's over. Then they go do those things.
And it's just like, people murder each other without music being an influence. I know, like, there's just interpersonal conflicts that happen in their mind, and they also have, like, these ideologies that, I'm sure that they have some of these ideologies make it to their music, but these are also, like, individuals that they were going through some shit. They weren't the best type of people, and I like to think that maybe they like to use that as a way to, like, promote their music, but maybe I'm wrong there. Because they're just like, this is our brand. We're fucking evil.
Yeah.
Like, because there's like a million metal genres. So, like, how are you going to stand out from the rest, How are you going to be the urchin in the sea?
Right. Exactly. A lot of it was that, too, the attention factor and all that.
Because, like, we see... when I say fine artist, I'm talking about not commercial artists, but artists that have their art in galleries. So when we talk about, like, fine artists, a lot of them do, like, crazy publicity stunts. Of course, I'd like to think they're more controlled, but a lot of times they're not, because even when we talk about fine artists and painters, like, they have delusions. Some of them are, like, there's some folks that are, like, openly mentally ill, and, like, like, they're just trying to get their art out there, and it's like the big motivator in their life, and they want it to be seen no matter what, and it drives them to the point of insanity. Because, like, how do you get your fucking shit out there? Like,
it's
how
hard.
do you get people to fucking listen to this shit,
You join a podcast and you promote your song as much as possible. Go listen to This Is Possession.
Yeah. So, it's literally... There's so many artists out there. How do you distinguish yourself from the rest? So that's one of the things that I thought was happening with Mayhem. It's like, they have to market themselves as, like, fucking evil. Because, like, how else will they get people to listen to it?
I'm going to say on their behalf, probably not that, like, them specifically. It was probably more just like, we just are these angry youth and we want to do these things, and fuck industry and fuck good music. We're going to create this ugly music because we're just doing the whatever normal people are listening to. If I'm not mistaken, too, they did it as a rebellion towards death metal, which they were just like, yeah, death metal. All the kids in high school like death metal, and all of them go play death metal on the weekends with their buddies. It's just a way to hang out. But no, we actually believed in something, so we're going to make our own music that shows that we're, they're posers, we're the real shit. And so it's funny because it's like, it was, how to say, a rebellion against death metal, which was already a rebellion against music, you know.
It's just nonconformist, nonconforming,
Yeah.
more nonconformity
Yeah.
than the nonconformists,
Be
bro.
the misfits from the misfits kind of thing, you know. That essentially what that where Mayhem was lying. Now, other bands, if you listen to other black metal bands that got more mainstream attention and stuff like that, yeah, it's a lot of it's marketing. A lot of it's like we put pig heads on stakes at our concerts so that, you know, we're more evil than everyone else and stuff. But like, it's at the end of the day, it's entertainment.
It's what do you say? It's theater.
It's theater. That kind of stuff. What do you call them? But so all this makes an interesting.
Drink your tea, baby. Yeah, you can pause and drink your tea whenever you feel like, baby.
So we've touched a lot. So we've touched a bit on Satanic Panic and kind of like stories that caused the panic to start to begin with, and then talking about like heavy metal music that was under fire at the time. Kind of an interesting phenomenon. So this is, you know, Satanic Panic in the late 70s, early 80s, and it even continued through the 90s. It was dying down towards the 90s, but a lot of these cases of like the elementary school, I think it got settled in the 90s. And so like the 90s was seeing the tail end of everything. You know, you hear about the Satanic Panic and it looks back at that time period of like 40 years ago. I felt recently like I was seeing similar patterns that were causing, to say, a modern day Satanic Panic. A point I wanted to bring up, it was funny, is so Little Nas X. Little Nas X, and he did that song. Do you know what the name of that song was?
Hold on, we can look at it.
Then I'm a dying.
You could just sing the song on this podcast.
I don't even know the song.
That shit all the time.
I don't even know that song like whatsoever. I just kind of know the beat in my head.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do. We could do the ringtone version of it.
Well, yeah. Montero. Maybe some of you saw this when this was happening. So he releases a song, and the song lyrically was about, from what I understand, is so Little Nas X came out as gay, or he came out as LGBT, and essentially a song was about saying like, oh, you're gay, you're gonna go to hell, you know, that kind of that thing. So he, in his own way, was embracing that. It was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to hell because I'm gay, but I'm going to be who I'm going to be.
Yeah, man, I'm going to strip a pole down my way there, dude.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly. So he did the music video where he goes to hell on a stripper pole, and he does a lap dance for the devil. And it's kind of a funny video.
It's just theatrics. Like, if you're familiar with like,
actually, I wouldn't even say it's kind of funny. It is funny. Yeah. Like, it is funny, and you can totally see that it's just him kind of like middle finger to all those people saying, "Oh, you're going to hell," and he's like, "Yeah, this is kind of fun," you know. And he's doing this just real sexual lap dance for the devil and stuff like that, getting all up on him, and it's just to say that, like, what are you going to tell me? You can't tell me anything anymore. Because, look, what are you going to say? I'm going to go to hell and stuff like that. Look where I am now.
I'm literally fucking chilling right now.
I'm literally chilling there.
I'm literally trying to vibe.
Yeah, it's like, there's nothing you can tell me anymore. Essentially what he's saying in the song or in the video and stuff. And that video, obviously, that was going to spark up a huge lot. Because now this is demonic imagery, hell, and evil imagery being portrayed in a popular song, a pop song. It's not heavy metal. It's not screaming. It's a really catchy song, and it's blowing up the charts. And it's about this kind of thing. And so, yeah, you know, people are going to right away freak out about that. They freak out about anything. It doesn't matter what song you put out. People are going to freak out about it. But
people are just haters, dude.
People are haters.
They be just hating.
Then on top of that, he does the promotion with the Nike shoes. So he from what I understand, I have to keep saying what I understand because someone can fact check me on this, but pretty sure I know what I'm talking about. Um, he bought Nike shoes, so it wasn't a promotion from Nike. It was just an individual thing that he was doing. He bought Nike shoes and he modified them and resold them. So the Nike shoes, he put like some like hell imagery on it. I think he had pentagrams on it.
Well, I gotta look this up.
I'm gonna
look up the shoes.
Yeah. So they had pentagrams on them, and they had like 666, and probably I think it may have upside down crosses or maybe Leviathan cross or something like that on there.
Oh, look at these with the dang old toes.
Those are Dora the Explorer purple silly feet clothes shoes. Okay, these are the shoes. Click on Little Nas X shoes right there. Yeah, these things are sick.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, go back to that image. So they got a big gold pentagram on them. On the little tongue, they got an upside down cross. Inside the shoe is a pentagram, and it has letters. I can't see what those letters say. FMSCH.
It has some letters in it.
Yeah. So it's got pentagram, and on the side, I think it has a Bible verse on it. Click on there's a scripture on it.
Ooh, what's the scripture? Luke 10:18, 6-666. Oh, that's cute.
So let's look at Luke 10:18 real quick.
Oh, Luke 10:18.
10:18. Luke 10:18. Luke 10. And he said to Luke 10:18, and he said to them, I saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. That's pretty cool. And so it's got red, it's got 666 on it, they're Nike shoes. And so the big kicker with them, even bigger kicker than this imagery, is underneath the shoe, there's these like plastic tanks underneath it. It's in the sole of the shoe. In that is red goo. There's red goo inside
his blood
shoe. Every shoe has 1 drop of human blood in the soles. So these shoes are pretty badass, I gotta say. Like, they're real metal. I wish I had a pair of these shoes. I would never wear them, but they're pretty badass shoes. And then he does like pictures with them. He takes pictures and he has like demon eyes, those like red cat eye looking things.
Yeah, it's like a red background. This is something Shadow the Hedgehog would really appreciate.
These are Shadow the Hedgehog's actual shoes that he wore in the game that allowed him to run as fast as Sonic.
Yeah.
But what do you call? So the evil shoes that he put out. So not only puppy,
Panda doesn't like when you talk shit about Shadow the Hedgehog. Panda, is everything okay? Panda. I was like, don't talk shit about Shadow the Hedgehog. That's his favorite Sonic character. This is a very fun promotion.
Yeah. So the Satan shoes. I think they're just called Satan shoes. Really badass.
Satan shoes. Yeah, literally just called Satan shoes, dude.
Yeah.
No deep cuts there, like no Beelzebub, no Zozo, none of those other cool secondary demons.
Yeah.
It's Satan. It's him.
Yeah, Satan. So, real cool shoes. He does this promotion for shoes along with this song. And, I mean, obviously, it's going to spur up a lot because, first of all, it was popular. Mm-hmm. Like, if anyone else, any smaller artist would have done this, it would have been like, whatever. Like, no one would have batted an eye. No one would have ever talked about it. But because this song blew up really big, that people were going to talk about it. Obviously, it's in your face. It's all over the internet, all over TikTok, all over YouTube, all over everything. Like, I couldn't, even me who doesn't watch, like, about pop artists or popular artists or anything like that, me just looking at memes online, him on the stripper pole, like, showed up in every video.
That shit blew up,
It blew up. I'm watching a video on Minecraft in the Nether, and you see the stripper pole and him sliding down it in the background. Like, I couldn't watch anything without him on it. So,
He's a cultural icon, dude. Yeah. Fucking iconic, dude.
Yeah, it became iconic. Exactly.
Yeah, dude.
And so, with that, people were freaking out. More conservative people were freaking out. Like, oh my God, they're promoting evil. They're promoting Satan. What is this? All our kids are getting hypnotized by this. They're under the spell. Our kids are going to be influenced by Satan now, and all this stuff. And it's like, it's funny because we went through this. I think they went through this. The parents
that
are crying about
this shit.
They lived through that. And here it's like, it's going to happen again. And after hearing about everything that got debunked at that time, no lessons were ever learned. So
Satanic Panic Part 2.
So Part 2, Satanic Panic Part 2. So, oh my God, it's happening all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And, people were really freaking out. This was on the news over, like, evil satanic shoes. Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking like, I can't believe
the marketing is so obvious. Like, it's fucking shoes. It's a product.
Yeah.
Like, use a little bit of critical thinking here. It's literally designed to cause a stir.
Yeah, it's designed to cause a stir, and you're playing fully into it. Mm-hmm. And, like, you just, you made this bigger than it needed to be. And so, like, it was just going crazy. Satanic Panic Part 2. And I remember when I was young, being told not to listen to, like, Marilyn Manson, because that was evil.
I fucking love Marilyn Manson.
There you go. And so, like, I was told, like, don't listen to Marilyn Manson, because that's really evil. And then, as an adult looking at it, it's like, man, this is tame. Like, yeah, he's edgy, but, people are really pushing it now.
Yeah, he
but,
was
like,
doing the cross-dressing. Nothing new. He was very much taking a lot of inspiration from what was before him.
For the time and being the icon, as big of an icon, yeah, it was, like, new to a lot of people and shocking and stuff like that. But, like, looking at it now, it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, people have been doing this now for a long time. Like, Marilyn Manson... I mean, not to say Marilyn Manson walks, so the rest of...
This guy's a fucking poser, says Cross. Marilyn Manson fucking sucks.
Yeah, but, like, I would say, like, then looking at Lil Nas X over here, it's like, God, he's really pushing that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's really, really hard. Not to say Marilyn Manson never did, but it's, like, at the same level, boom. Mm-hmm. We have someone else doing it. And so, what do you call... when did this song come out?
Montero? That came out like 2-3 years ago. I'll look it up.
I think a little longer than that, because that'll tie into my next point.
So it came out... When was this uploaded?
2021.
Yeah, 2021. Not that long ago.
It was a couple years. So this song came out 2021. As we all know, in U.S., here in the U.S., we have this huge issue with, what do you call? So, this causing a panic, 2021. For you people that live in the U.S., I assume all of you.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, we have Brazilian viewers.
Oh, Brazilian.
We have a good Brazilian following.
we'll come to Brazil.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the political climate here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. I'm sure your Brazilians are doing just fine. I don't know what's happening in Brazil. I don't know. Tell us in the comments section below. So, culturally, the U.S. is in, like, a really weird spot. We just went through a pandemic. A lot of people passed away. And we've also gone through crazy conspiracy theories, such as, like, Pizzagate and such. We're in, like, a really weird place in American culture right now. And I feel like a lot of it kind of, you could see, like, history repeating itself a little bit.
All over again.
Because we have Pizzagate, we had this thing where, like, oh, it's child sex trafficking. And when we talk about, like, the preschool case, it's like, the conspiracy always starts with, like, child sex trafficking. Because, like, that's bad. Everyone can agree that's the worst thing ever.
That's horrible. And to label someone as that, like, oh, they're part of a sex trafficking ring, like, that's the ultimate evil, and you wouldn't really even question it. You would start accusing right away, like, you're what? Like, who is this?
Like, no one can defend it.
Yeah, no one could defend that. And so, like, Pizzagate, the idea is that it's like, it was like Democratic people, Democrats in U.S. going to a pizza place and underground, they have, like, a child sex ring, and what do you call the people that are fighting against it is QAnon, which is a conspiracy group, very large conspiracy group in the U.S. That believe, they are on the God-given path. God is guiding them to do the correct things. So it's I recommend looking it all up to see what we're talking about, because it's a whole mess to talk about, and it gets messy really fast and once you start talking about QAnon and all that stuff. But right now we're in the same issue where we're having these like religious fanatics,
and we're having a shift in cultural values. We're also breaking down tradition. Like, people are starting to look at gender in a more constructive way. They're like really looking at this. Like, when we talk about the Satanic Panic, we also have to remember around this time women started going to the workplace. So a lot of them had to get child services. They had to get childcare. And a lot of women were made to feel guilty. They're just like, well, you're not woman enough to take care of your own damn kids because the economy is, everyone has to work. And so, like, the woman's role has changed, and so society changes. And we're going through a lot of societal changes. And now we're looking at gender itself, and, like, that's changing, where people realize, like, people don't fit into the binary. Like, some people go as far as to say, like, gender isn't real. And, we know the Republicans lost the race against gay marriage, so now they have this new victim. They're going after the transgender people. Before them, it was the gays. Before them, it was the immigrant of the time. Before then, it was someone else. There's always some enemy. It changes every 10 years. 10 years ago, it was the gays and the Mexicans. Now we're going up against the transgender folk. And, like, I've known about, like, transgender people since I was, like, young, because there was a lot of trans folk that would be on TV, and they would talk about their experiences, and they would talk about the surgery. The surgery has existed for decades already, for a long time. Trans people have been around for a long time. We know there's been, like, folks in, like, ancient... We know that there's been, like, folks in, like, ancient, there's been folks...
Just say all throughout history.
We know that there's been trans folks, like, all throughout history. Or there's been cross-dressers. There's been all of this. Like, it's nothing new.
Nothing new, but it's becoming more prominent because people have more... I mean, with, like, the internet and the rapid growth of social media, people have more of an understanding of one another. And so it's easier just to spread all this information out. A thing you'll hear a lot about is, like... much older people will say things along the lines of, like, do you remember back in school we didn't have all this transgender and gay and all that stuff? You think about that, like, they're trying to say, like, oh, this doesn't really exist and it's a new made-up phenomenon. But truth be told, it was always there. It's just, like, you couldn't address it, you couldn't talk about it, there was no outlet for it. Now that there's an outlet, all of a sudden people are like, oh, what the heck, what's with all these people claiming to be trans and all this stuff? And it's just because, like, they probably always were, just they couldn't say it.
They were closeted.
There was no outlet. Now there's a big outlet. So going through the Satanic Panic again, I do believe that, I feel like we're going to hit something big again. This Little Nas X just shows that we are going to repeat history again. Because that came and went. I feel like, I didn't really see too much of the aftermath of that when I felt like it was in the spotlight, and then the next thing whatever showed up was in the spotlight, and we forgot Little Nas X and the whole controversy behind that and stuff. I'm sure there's people that still hold on to that, but how to say, like, going further, the point that we wanted to bring up is that a thing right now that I'm seeing a lot of is, so during the Satanic Panic, saying that, oh, my kid is being molested and, being molested from his school. Police, everyone in the news, everyone in the media took that immediately. Like, this must be true. There's no reason why you would just say these things because this is such an evil thing. There's no reason why you'd be saying these things without them being true. They must be true. So let's open an investigation. Let's start looking at that. Let's start arresting people. Let's put people in jail. All this kind of stuff. And then it blows out of proportion because more people can say, oh, yeah, I was affected by that. Oh, yeah, that happened to me. And it starts blowing out of proportion and becomes this whole phenomenon and stuff like that. A thing that I'm seeing happen today that's a really bad trend is, like, we're talking about transgender and how that's becoming more and more understood, more and more explained more and more. What's the word? I don't want to say like research, but I want to say like more and
acknowledged.
Yeah, more and more acknowledged in today's age. A point that I'm hearing, just a dismissive point, something that people are saying just to dismiss the whole transgender and everything like that, is saying that it's somehow it's grooming. It's grooming. It's pedophilia, and like I think they're trying to say that like exposing children to the potential that they could be transgender is making them like sexually active at a young age. But easy to say that like we're not showing kids this stuff saying like, hey kids, you can have a sex change whenever you want. We're not going in elementary schools and doing that. It's just saying that like, hey, anytime that you want to understand yourself, here's some resources, here's some things to look at. You can look at other people that went through similar things.
These people, they exist.
So how to say, this is just people finding a way to let me rephrase that. So we
have like a lot of people involving like kids. They're just like, we have to protect the children.
We have to protect the children.
It always rolls back to that. Like if they want like a good boogeyman, it has to target the kids in some way.
Yeah, target the kids. And so we're treating this like the boogeyman and saying that, oh, the transgender is the new evil and what do you call it? It's pedophilia and it's grooming all our kids. I was reading about like some states that they were making the libraries like remove certain books that were about like queer or anything like that. And they said, oh, it's grooming. These books are just to groom kids and stuff like that. And so let's remove them from libraries. And I think that's nuts that that's happening today.
It's another way to silence, just like we're talking about how like heavy metal music, like it's a way to voice or give a feeling to like something that you feel, but maybe you don't want to go through with it. There's a lot of kids that they know they're queer and they don't know the words to explain it. So if we have libraries and we have books and media that have a way to like express these feelings, then that's bad. Because people can't do anything that a white man can't do. I mean, that's not a good joke. Like, people can't go outside of what's traditional.
Traditional, conservative. It's like, I don't know. I don't know where this whole like conservative, where does it root from? Where are we trying to go back to, like the 60s or the 50s? And it's like, yeah, that's true tradition. That's where we should all be based off of. We're very far from that.
The tradition that a lot of conservatives talk about is like mostly manufactured. And I say this as someone whose grandparents grew up as rural folk, like no money, just land and stuff. And a lot of these traditionalists are just like, oh, well, women didn't work. They only took care of their kids. And they were in like their kitchens barefoot and they never worked and they were happy this way because it wasn't labor intensive. Like women they're not equipped to work and they're not equipped to do all of these things that a man is supposed to do. And like,
we're so far from that.
Yeah, that, first of all, that never fucking happened.
Yeah,
that was never what being, and like, we're talking about like housewife. That was like maybe a period of like 10 to 5 years for that ever happened.
And not every woman was that.
Yeah, women have always worked.
Yeah.
Rural women have worked even harder because for them, their work never ends. For like my grandma, she never had a job. But she was tending to the hogs. She was taking care of the chickens. She was taking care of kids. Like, her work was never done. She was constantly working, and she was like a big, hefty woman because she was always lifting things.
Yeah.
She was doing heavy labor.
A brick house.
And like these conservatives like to look back at like rural life with like rosy-eyed glasses where it's just like, oh, women in like prairie dresses and they're so cute and thin and they write letters to their girlfriends, but it's not gay.
Yeah. The time that
and like that never happened.
Never happened.
Rural women were bulky, they were hardy, they were starving, they didn't have pretty skin. It was a hard life, and they were hard people. And like this idealized traditional view never existed once, ever.
And so here we are, looking like the future holds the next major satanic panic, you know?
Yeah, people are gonna look at they're gonna look at the 70s and be like, that was the ideal time.
The ideal time. You guys remember war? Do you remember?
Do you guys remember just doing cocaine with your besties in the bathroom?
In the bathroom, the back of a van.
The 70s were the good old days. Those were real traditional values.
Just do a lot of drugs and have a lot of sex, man.
Yeah, man.
Everyone, the future generations are gonna, in protest, go to celibacy. That's gonna be the next thing. Because it's like, yeah, the older generations were all about having sex all the time. I doubt that's gonna happen. I think everyone's gonna have, triple turbo sex.
Triple turbo sex?
Yeah.
That's what we gotta look forward to. We're not...
You younger kids are lucky. You're gonna go in the generation of triple turbo sex.
It's like, back in my day, we just had regular sex.
Regular sex, yeah. You guys have a lot more options now.
Yeah, back in my day, we just did it in these 3 positions. Now you guys have 12 new positions. What is this? They got new sex.
New sex. They invented sex too.
Oh my god, the sequel to Sex.
I haven't even finished the first one.
I haven't even finished the first Sex, dude. Anyways, it was great having you on here,
Yay.
Cross. We're going to play you out with some of Cross's music. Can you tell the audience who you are again?
I am Cross Carrasco. You can find me on Instagram under Cross_Carrasco, spelled CROSS_CARRASCO. You could also find me on TikTok. You can find me on Spotify, music, all that kind of stuff under the same name. YouTube. I'm on YouTube as well. My band is called Placate, and our single is This Is Possession.
All right, let's play This Is Possession. Enjoy.